it's Chrissy here from the Creative Eclectic. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Today's video is the third in the Heat Embossing series. So we are going to do some heat embossing with a bit of a difference today. And we are going to use the Pattern Party decorative masks, which are on page 202 of the 2018 annual catalogue. So these masks come in a set of 4. We're using the clouds. So I've got a piece of cardstock. Actually, before we start, well, I should tell you what you need. So you need a mask or a stencil. You need some embossing powder. You also need a Versamark ink pad, an embossing buddy, and the heat tool. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, and you also need some painter's tape. So let's get started. I've got my piece of Whisper White cardstock. I'm just going to rub all over that cardstock with my embossing buddy. This is an anti-static pillow. If you've watched the other couple of videos, you will remember I use this to stop the embossing powder sticking where I don't want it to. Now I want to do some clouds. So what I'm going to do is I've got some of the masking tape already cut. I'm just going to stick it on my mask, and I just want to hold it in place while I'm inking it up. Now it's okay if your mask goes off the side. I might put a little bit at the top too. Okay. So I've got my Versamark ink pad. I'm just going to do a direct to paper. I'm not going to worry about the bottom third of my card. I'm just doing it at the top. So I just get my ink pad and press it into my and press it quite firmly, and you don't want to twist it because you don't want it to move the stencil at all. Okay, so I've put that down. I'm going to lift up my mask now, and I don't know if you can see it, there's some sort of greyish watermark there. So I've got some silver embossing powder, because every cloud needs a silver lining, right? And I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder over my cardstock. Oh, make sure that I've got it everywhere that I want. Make sure you tap it really, really well so that you don't have embossing powder where you don't want it. If you wanted to, you could just get a brush and go over where there's embossing powder that's stuck. Okay, so I've just got a cork heat mat from the kitchen and my heat tool. Now what you might want to do is just heat your heat tool up a little bit before you bring it near your cardstock, and that'll just speed the process up. Okay, so here you can see, oops, missed a bit. You can see I've now got Heat Embossed Clouds. So they're pretty cool, right? I'm going to show you a slightly different technique that you can do when you don't have Versamark. So I'm just putting my mask onto my visible white cardstock. Now I've got a product from Stampin' Up called embossing paste. So this is such a cool product. This is my third container of it. So I haven't even used this one. Can't get the plastic off. Joy of having acrylic nails is you can't get them underneath things. But you can use them to put a hole in it. So I've got this embossing paste. You can see it's lovely and smooth, and let me warn you, if you don't seal the container up properly, it will dry out, and will dry out really quickly. So I've got one of the embossing tools from, one of the palette knives from the catalogue. They're on page 203, and I'm just going to get a little bit of embossing paste, and I'm just going to spread it over my mask. Now you don't need a lot. And you can put it on as thin or as thickly as you like. If you put it on thickly, obviously it's going to have a bit more texture. So you can have more fluffy sort of clouds. Okay. And what we're going to do, I'm going to take off the mask, quickly put the lid back on our embossing paste because we do not want that to dry out. Now what I normally do, as soon as I've finished using a mask, I would put it in a bowl of warm water and let it soak for a little while, and then the embossing paste just comes off. Okay, so I've got some textured clouds. I've had some on my fingers, so it's going where it shouldn't. Right. Oops. Yep, that's why you have to put the lid on everything properly, or else you drop it. So I've got my embossing powder in silver. And I'm just going to, and you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to use my embossing buddy. So that's why I have embossing powder in lots of places where I don't want it. Now you can put as much or as little on as you like. So you could just do a tiny bit. If you had a fine paintbrush, this would be the ideal time to... Okay, so you can see I've got the embossing paste and I've got embossing powder on it. So I'm just going to get my heat tool and heat it up. So how cool is that? You've got lovely textured clouds that are silver, and they're puffy, and Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, whatever you do, give it a chance to cool down, because if you touch it while it's hot, you're going to burn your fingers. And I like how there's some irregularities in it. So some of the clouds have got some white still in them. Probably wasn't my original intent, but as you can see, it's pretty cool. So I encourage you to give this technique a go, either the direct to paper using the stencils, or using the embossing paste. Now, what this embossing paste and the stencils do is give you so many more options with your products. So you can make some really creative backgrounds for your cards. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick that onto a card when it cools down a bit. And I've already done my balloons, so I'll actually have some balloons on the card. And hopefully that might look okay. It'll need a bit more stamping, but I'm sure it's going to look just fine. Okay. Or I might change my mind and use some balloons or some other sort of balloons, hot air balloons or something. I really like those clouds. Oh, and you'll notice here on my background, I cut the centre out of my silver piece, and the reason I did that is because I was running low on silver cardstock, and I thought, well, if I take the centre out, which is a bit where no one's going to see because it'll be layered, then I can use that piece of silver for something else. And if you wanted to see, this is just the plain heat embossing with the Versamark, so I'll hold them both together. So there's a big difference in how they look. I personally like the textured look much better. I think it's much more whimsical and more fun. So there you go, that's heat embossing with stencils. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment below. And until next time, happy stamping!